In this podcast, we're going to talk about when to sell your shares. We've talked a lot about what to invest in, when to invest, but at some point you're going to be like, now what? Either that or you're going to be afraid something's going to happen, stocks are falling, and you're going to be selling because you get afraid. But then you have to remember, when is it that we actually sell? That's what we're going to talk about. Welcome to Money and Freedom, the podcast where you learn to become financially free using value investing. At this moment of speaking, there is actually a bit of turmoil in the stock market, and it can be so tempting to push that sell button just because you want the pain to go away. Sometimes that's what's happening. You just want it to go away again, like it's kind of like that scary movie, like you just shut it off. So that's what you don't want to do. You need a strategy for selling. You have three main strategy of selling. You have the buy and hold. That is what Warren Buffett is usually doing. Then you have buy and sell. Buy, and then you have to look for something new. That is Benjamin Graham. And then you have house money concept. And this is when we call it house money because it's kind of like going into the casino. You go to the casino, you have 10,000. Let's say you have 10,000. That's a lot. Let's say you have 1,000. You have 1,000. You gamble. You win 10,000. Then you take that 1,000. You put it in your pocket, and then you gamble. You keep gambling for the 9,000. So that would be selling, so that you take your own money in the pocket and you only gamble for the house money. That's why we call it the house money. This is something you would do with a high risk, high growth portfolio. But, usually it's not going to be 1 to 10. It's probably going to be you're going to double your position and then take the original out. So when do you do what? When is it really time to sell? I'm going to be really annoying right now and say it really depends on what you're investing in. Because stocks are not just one big group of stocks. It's so many different things. Stocks are like personalities. It's like people. You have so many different kinds of people. So let's group them. And I'm going to call them by animals in order to make it really easy to remember. You have, first of all, the snail. What's so characteristic about a snail? A snail is so slow, right? And you can even see the path with the slime and everything. You're like looking at it. It doesn't look like it's moving, but it is. A snail is a very slow-growing company. Then you have the elephant. Boom, boom. Elephants can be relatively fast. They're not the fastest animal, but they're also big. So elephants are very big companies that have a stable growth. Then you have the cheetah. What's the thing about the cheetah? Cheetah is the fastest animal on Earth. I think there are some flying animals that are faster, or maybe swimming, but on Earth, it's the fastest. So cheetahs are the very fast, high-growth company. Then you have the bear. That is a cyclical company, a company where the stock will take a huge, and even within the company, the sales will fall whenever there's a recession. And because of that, following that, also the stock will fall whenever there's upset in the market or a recession. Then you have a wolf. A wolf is a company that is going through some huge changes. It's a turnaround case. So let's look at these different companies. How do you treat them? Okay, let's start with bears and wolf. With bears, you sell them before you enter a recession. You can enter them when you exit a recession. You don't want to keep them over a recession because they're too risky during a recession. And, wolf I'll take a little bit later. Elephants, I would say, are buy and hold companies. They're so good, they're stable, they're big, they just keep moving, nothing can knock them over, just stay in them. Then you have the cheetah. You either if they're really good and strong teachers, you would use buy and hold as well. But otherwise, I would go for house money strategy. Then you have the snail. Snails are really boring. And so I would only invest in them if for some reason there was some kind of an event and the stock price dove down to a level where it's just like so obvious you have to invest in it because it's just so cheap in a way. And then I would sell them again when they went up to a more normal level. So that would be a buy and sell strategy. And let's just go back to the wolf. The wolf, which was a turnaround case, I would treat like the risky cheaters. So that would be a house money case. You would invest. If it went up a lot, you would take your house money out and see where the rest went. So it's really important to be clear about which kind of animal you're investing in. Most people, they just think of stocks as stocks. And it's such a normal way to think. If you go down to the bank or whatever, if you have either the bank or retirement counselor, they'll ask you, so are you a risky type investor or do you like more security? You kind of get that, then you have to say, I'm medium, lots, whatever. And they'll give you a portfolio with percentages of bonds and stocks. So if you say, I'm high risk, I just want this train to run fast, then they'll give you probably 80% stocks and 20% bond, or maybe 100% stocks, but they'll probably give you some bonds. If you say, I'm really worried, stocks are very risky, I want safety, then they'll give you 80% bonds and 20% stocks. In this way of thinking, stocks are just one group. But like I said before, stocks are a lot of different companies. And we need some way to discern between them. And this is one suggestion. Now, the problem is, when talking about selling, it's usually not going to be a problem to sell because most people are prone to selling their stocks way too fast. So the problem will be how to keep them. And how do you actually stop yourself from selling? And that is, first of all, you need a solid strategy to follow. And I would say, obviously, I'm a value investor. I would say value investing is a pretty good strategy. Then you need to be really clear on why you invested in the company in the first place. And it really helps to, one, follow that checklist, and two, to write it down. And below this video, you can find both the checklist as a cheat sheet, one-page cheat sheet, and a work sheet where you can fill out your reasons why you're investing in this company. And then you keep that. When you're filling out this worksheet, you're building a story, a hypothesis about this company, why this would be a good investment. And you keep it and you return to that story. And a third thing you could do is bounce your hypothesis or your story or your reasons for selling against another investor with the same strategy, so another value investor. And fourth, if you're really in doubt, then you have to go back to the cheat sheet, look at what you wrote, and then do the whole analysis one more time. Do it again. So when should you actually sell? Let's say that you do have a company that's a buy and hold. You meant to keep it, but there could be reasons to selling anyway. So what is it that we're looking for? So if your strategy isn't to just buy the shares and then when they go to a certain level, you from the beginning know that you're going to sell, but you have a company, you could keep it forever, but something is happening. What are the reasons that will make you divert from your original plan? Okay, here comes some reasons. First of all, if management is replaced and you really don't like or trust the new management, that's a good reason to get out. What could make you not trust the new management? Well, this is the people factor, right? Like sometimes it's a feeling that we have, but there could also be some signs. And if you see anywhere that they're lying about something, they're probably lying about more. And then it's really a reason to get out. We want them to be honest. And there are also some signs that tell us if they are aligned with our interests. One thing that is a pretty good sign is what's the policy with dividends and share buybacks? If the company has a bad quarter or bad year, bad 10K in general, are they still paying out dividends? And that's not super good. They should hold back dividends if it's not a good year. And share buybacks, is that an automatic thing, or are they adjusting it according to the price? Just like when we're investing, we don't want to buy the shares when it's completely overvalued, or when the stock price went way up too high in bubble territory. They should not be buying back stocks, because then they will erode the value of the company. They should buy shares in their own company and buy back shares when it's a good time, when the stock price is reasonable. If something changed in the story that you wrote down, does it still hold, or is something changing it? That's also a good reason to get out. What about the competitive landscape? Is anything changing? Is there a competitor that is sneaking up on them for some reason? Or did they create a better product? That's also a good reason to get out. Disruption. Is there any disruption? This is when something in the market changes completely. So it makes the product of the company you're invested in irrelevant. If that is on the way, get out. And then there's the last reason I have here is a little bit, it's a difficult one. If there's a better opportunity somewhere else, I was debating with myself if I should put it on the list or not, because the grass is always greener on the other side, right? So you have to be really careful with this one. But if you really found an opportunity that you really believe in, that could be a good reason to sell stocks in one company in order just to buy it in another. So how should you do this? You should really be reluctant to selling. Really be reluctant. You have to have a good reason for selling. Either it's your previous story or one of these points. Because the main mistake most people make, and that goes for me in my early experience with investing, the main mistake will be selling too soon and missing out on future profit. If you made all the effort of analyzing, you found a good investment, you built the story, don't get impatient. Value investing is really about watching grass grow, as they say. You need patience to be a good investor. If you like this podcast, please follow, like, and give it a review. It really helps the podcast grow. If you have any question, feel free to hit me up on X or LinkedIn. My handle is my first name, Beile, spelled B-E-I-L-E.